Hi, and welcome to the R2RB Indie Artist Podcast Series. Today I have with me indie artist Vo Bird. Vo is not only an indie artist, but also does photography, painting, and drawing. Vo has recorded her music over the last several years, including her instrumental album, Oddity, and her singles Crimes of Humanity and 6468, reaching #1 on It's Now radio station. That is so awesome, Vo. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, I am super excited and honored to not only be a part of this lovely broadcast and interview, but having my song 6468 hit #1 for 2 weeks in a row, and then getting the other single, Crimes Against Humanity, up there as well. I mean, that's huge. And last week, I think I voted for myself one time. So to everyone listening, thank you for voting. It's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good.
And it's a great accomplishment and a great feeling, I'm sure.
It is, and it's same with having the nominations for the International Singer-Songwriter Association. That is huge as well. I know, like, the voting happens sometime in April,
Mhm.
and just to be nominated alone, to me, I am just stoked about. So.
As you should, as you should. Congratulations. That's all great things happening for you. And we're just finishing up March. So kudos to you
Yes.
for 2025.
Yeah, it's going really well. I'm excited.
Oh, I'm so glad. All right. So I like to ask two questions to get us warmed up. What's
Okay.
your favorite app on your phone and why?
Favorite app on my phone? Probably Instagram, because it's free, and honestly, I use my Instagram as kind of backup storage for all of my photography that I do. Google Photos is great until you keep hitting the storage unit max that they have, and then you have to start paying for it, which I do. And yeah, as you've probably seen, I do a lot of photography, so
Yeah.
it fills up quickly.
And it does, because I use it too for other things as well. But yeah, sometimes you look at it, it's like, how did I use up all that space? Oh my gosh.
So great seeing like other people's, photography and things that they've been up to and stuff like that as well. So it's good to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you could have lunch with anyone, past or present, who would it be?
I'd probably say my grandparents on my dad's side of the family. They both, passed away quite a few years ago, and it would be nice to see them again and sit down and share and some of the success that's been happening, and be able, I catch myself wondering every now and then, like, oh, what would they say about, what would they think about this, and how would they feel? And so it would be nice to know that. And my grandma was an incredible cook, so having some of her food and stuff like that again would be great.
I like that. Were either of them into the art?
My grandpa did a lot of photography, just kind of for the fun of it, along with my aunt and my dad. They just kind of go out, if we do road trips or travel anywhere. My grandpa was kind of the one that really got me into photography. They had a cabin up in the mountains, and we would go on a road trip just to kill some time in the day. And he gave me like his digital camera, which was a huge thing back then, because you used to have, put in your film and stuff, and that gets expensive. And so he would tell me that I could use this camera as long as I didn't miss the shot. And my goal was getting logging trucks and cattle guards. He wouldn't ever slow down when it came to driving or stop so I can get a shot. And he told me, life doesn't ever stop for you. So you have to learn how to, adjust in it to do it. And whether or not he was being smart or if it was actual like sentimental advice, I don't know. He had a very kind of dry sense of humor in a way, which we all loved about him, because you could never tell if he was being serious or joking. But I've, over the years, I've really taken that to heart, and it makes a lot of sense. And so I constantly, just go out and taking photos and hope that they turn out. And if not, it's fine. So yeah, I wouldn't really say it was fully artistic, is a degree of like music and painting, but photography is kind of its own artistic outlet in a way.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Oh, I like that. That's a great memory.
yeah, it is.
Absolutely. So where does the love for painting and drawing and music come from then? Do you have somebody else, other people that kind of had an influence on you?
Not directly. My mom, every now and then, she would kind of do some, kind of cartoon doodles from time to time, especially, on the phone, when she's talking and sitting there doodling about. And I always loved those and still do to this day. So I kind of, try to do some art, to feel happy and stuff like that. I had like a great aunt that did a lot of painting, a lot of oil painting and stuff like that. And she was incredible with a lot of her like landscapes and stuff like that. She would just like pull off in an area and would paint something and had her stuff in museums and things like that down in southern Idaho. Unfortunately, I wasn't ever really close with her just because she lived far away and we were kind of all busy with their own lives as
Right,
people tend to be.
right.
But I definitely think it would have been really cool to, to pick your brain and to learn more about that, especially oil paintings, because I suck at that.
Yes, but your art is beautiful as well. So
Thank you.
welcome. Wow. All right. So you also have 10 plus years of experience in the entertainment industry and radio. So tell us about that.
Started in with a radio station. I was friends with a kind of local band, and one of the members of the band was a DJ. And I was like, oh, I always thought that would be cool, be a DJ and kind of force everyone to listen to all the different songs that I like and get other people that's not in the mainstream out on the radio. And so he's like, well, come on down to this station. So I went down to the station at Radio Boise and started kind of getting involved and was volunteering. I did every position from the ground up, which was awesome. A lot of experience there. My favorite, although wasn't necessarily working in the booth, ironically enough, I enjoyed categorizing all of the records and CDs that came in because I was the first person that was opening it and was listening to it that these artists were mailing into the station. I just thought that was so much fun. It was like Christmas, not only for my hands opening up all these packages, but for my ears as well.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, I've never heard of this group and who is it? And then I would, kind of get sidetracked and start researching about these people. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. From there, I got into stage management. And then I got into kind of some roadie work and promoting and helping out other people
You've done a lot.
in a short time too.
Yes, in a short time. Absolutely. And let me just go back to because I think I cut you short on, your love for photography, painting, etc. So where did the music part of it come in? When did you get into that?
I've always loved listening to music. Growing up, there was always, the radio that was playing in the background. I found myself just kind of singing along to all of that. When I was middle school, I joined up in choir. It was just kind of an extra elective, and everyone's like, choir? I was like, yeah, why not? I did pretty good in it for a while until, high school. I changed schools and choir teachers and ended up kind of messing up my voice, my confidence a little bit, quite a bit actually. And I quit singing. And it wasn't until recently that I was like, I want to get back into that. While I was in middle school, I was always writing poetry. And so I took a lot of those poems and was working on turning them into song lyrics just for the fun of it. And I work on really challenging myself to develop something deeper and more meaningful, more factual and relatable. Sometimes I look back at my earlier stuff and I was like, oh man, that was terrible. And fifth grader could have done better. It's progress. And
Absolutely.
I strive to keep learning and growing and
Yeah, it's the progress that has gotten you to this point.
yes.
And so with the painting and the photography and the drawing and writing, you also do, let me see where my notes are. You also write about, which I found so interesting, historical events. Why historical events?
I am a little bit of a nerd. I like the fact and the truth that is done in historical events. And I like being able to help preserve a lot of that. And it's kind of kicks off to the start of my album Crimes Against Humanity. When I was middle school, I remember we would always have like guest speakers that would come to the school. So there would be, retired vets that would come in. We had Holocaust survivors that would come in. We'd have these huge assemblies. Most of the time, the kids weren't paying attention. And I was just drawn into what they were talking about because it was nothing at all like what the textbooks and what we were learning. It was far more, I don't want to say exotic or grotesque, but those are the only words I can think of. It was far more extreme. There we go.
Right.
Than what we were learning. And granted, schools can only teach so much in the time period that they are in. Would just get curious because the images that was rolling around in my head and just hearing their voices, it was just stuck and I couldn't wrap my brain around it. And so in a way, I kind of got a little bit obsessive of watching films and documentaries and just wormholing into all of it. There was so much that I was learning. I wanted to, share some of that with people. I really love music and films that make you think and have a lot of depth and character. I thought, I love helping people and I want to make a difference. And so, if I could inspire people and if I can preserve history and events that have happened and tell these stories, that's what I want to do. And I'm going to do it. And so I have been doing it.
You have, absolutely. Between your photography, the painting, writing, which kind of crosses over to each other, bringing you into the indie music world. Did you think when you were younger that was the path you were going to end up in? Or was this later on when you got back into the music that you wanted to pursue a career as an indie artist as well?
Honestly, I didn't fully know what I wanted when I was a little kid. There was a point in time I wanted to play soccer. I wanted to work with horses and do rodeo or be a vet. I get so attached to animals. And so I'm like, okay, that would be really bad. If something happens to them, I couldn't handle it. I always loved writing. I love artwork, of taking pictures, and I love music. And so I just kind of immersed myself into that. When I was in middle school, I wanted to be a writer. I always thought it would be cool to write a bunch of song lyrics and have someone else, sing and perform them. And I still think that that would be awesome. So if anyone is looking for some lyrics, hit me up.
There you go.
I thought can't always just wait around for someone else to, make your dreams come true. I have a voice, might not be the best, it's here. Why not? It can't be that difficult to do. I mean, it is a challenge. I finally got the courage to just go for it. Life's short.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so glad that you got the courage to go forward because your music and the music is beautiful and there are messages. And so what do you want your listeners to take away from your music?
I want them to have the same experience that I do when listening to music, to where you can hear a line in it and it sparks that curiosity to go, what is this about? And to look it up, learn from it. That's what I want listeners to be able to take away from my music, is just knowledge, truth and knowledge.
Along with everything else, you started your own nonprofit business, Words from the Bird LLC. Tell us about the company and the name first, and why did you want to start Words from the Bird?
Well, I started Words from the Bird LLC because there is very much a constant need for promotion and getting the word out about your art, your business, whatever it is that there is. And a lot of people, when you're starting up a company, you don't have funds to, put into for someone else to do that for you. And it's very, very time consuming to do that outside of, making whatever products or doing the things that you do already on top of running a business. My ultimate goal is to have a bunch of land in a property where it's kind of like a bed and breakfast, recording studio, performance center for all forms of art, and a ranch and a garden. Be able to have culinary students come in and just, ultimately give back all the time. It's so easy to be selfish and it's a lot harder to be so open and to, give all the time. I just love doing that type of stuff. How I came up with the name, for some reason, I just really fell in love with birds. I've always wanted one. I have one. I learned that, people pay a lot more attention to things that's done from an animal than they do an actual person. And, words from the bird, it's kind of catchy because it's just like the song Surfer Bird. So I went with that. And so my bird, Oslo, is kind of the business spokesperson that we have. And, he takes part in some of the interviews and meetings that we have too. He doesn't say much, but, he'll make it present.
Oh, I like that. Oh, that's great. I love all that combined with the indie artists and a place to get away to with other, people that are in your same realm of be able to help each other.
Where I'm at here in Idaho, it's a little bit of a closed music community. It's very tight niche. Compared to other, states and stuff like that, it's far more welcoming. That, we need to try to change that in a way and improve, because art and music, it's all about connecting and being supportive of each other. We need to be able to do that. And so that's the key with this business is, supporting people and helping and connecting.
Yes, and the indie artist community is definitely all about that. So let's get into a little bit about your music. Let's start with who is Ken Stringfellow, because he is definitely someone, and what his involvement with crimes against humanity was, and what's the story behind crimes against humanity.
So Ken Stringfellow is a very well-known musician. He was in with the band, he started the band The Posies. He was in with Big Star, REM, Lagwagon, a whole bunch of others. We became friends over the years. He has a recording studio out in Seattle. He also has one out in France. He can work anywhere, remotely, in person, at any studio, really. He helps others record their music and do what they love, because he, again, is a very helpful person. And so we were chatting, and I had been tossing around the idea about, wanting to record some music. Finally, I was just like, you know what, let's do it. And so we had a session together. I had some music that I did, and he helped, make that sound a lot better. And then I had some other songs that I didn't know how I wanted them to sound. And so we kind of just played around at the studio on, different instruments. He's the type of musician that can pick up any instrument, play something, and it's incredible with one take. I'm just blown away by that still to this day.
Yeah.
He's one of those producers to where he doesn't just take your money and have the music be. He really works to make sure that you are having like a full sound and that it's the way that you want. If you're struggling at something, he can come up with suggestions like on the spot. He's just a really great guy to work with, really creative and supportive. And he's really patient with me when it comes to being in the studio, because I get really nervous. He's played on majority of the instruments for my album Crimes Against Humanity, produced, mixed, and mastered. The album itself is going to be out later this year. I don't have an exact date yet.
Oh, good.
We're still kind of working on mastering a couple of the songs still. And then we're going to be working on album number 3, which is going to be Maps of Existence.
Yes.
So it's all, exciting and it's fun.
Absolutely. So just a little story behind Crimes Against Humanity. What was that song about? And it's also the name of the album.
It's also the name of the album. So that song took actually a couple of years to write the lyrics for. And it was one of those where I was doing a whole bunch of writing, and then I would just pull bits and pieces from all these different pieces that I did until it made sense. And then I had to shorten it because it was like 2-3 pages long. And you can't have that in songs, because that was just way too long. And I just decided for the sound of it, I wanted it to be a little mysterious, but kind of on a spoken verse, kind of a little aspect of jazzy in a way. And I wanted that song to kind of be the prefix of the whole entire album. That's how it turned out, and it turned out beautifully.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. It repeats itself because history and life, tends to repeat a little bit. And so it's very unique and genius on how the lyrics are laid out.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, incredible. I'm looking forward for the album release as well. And 64 to 68?
Yep, 64, 68 is another single off of the album. That one is based on pretty much everything that happened in the years 1964 and 1968. I really touched up on JFK and Martin Luther Jr. King. I honestly, with that song, I had been watching a lot of documentaries of that time period. It was just kind of fascinating to me. It was just writing down possible topics to kind of explore and just words that sounded neat. And then I realized I just listed out everything that happened in the time period. Again, I kind of did a little bit of a spoken verse on that, but I wanted it to be fun and catchy and not necessarily be fully rock or punk. I wanted it to be kind of like a B-52 song,
There you go.
And so that's the sound that we were going for on it. And that was one of the songs from the album. I just had like a few ideas already laid out before getting to the studio. And that was one that Ken totally just laid down those guitar tracks. I love it.
And I think everybody else is loving it too, since it's hitting number one.
It's so catchy. It gets stuck in your head. I played it for some of my family members, and then a couple of hours later, they were like humming the song along, and I'm like, yes, mission accomplished.
Oh my gosh, I love your basis of your lyrics, and
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's different. I know everybody has their own style of writing. I know everybody draws on different things that have happened or feelings, what have you. But to have what you've done and taken the bits and pieces of history and then create these songs is just phenomenal.
Thank you.
Going into Oddity, which was your first album.
Yes, Oddity was my first album. So that is all instrumental. I was just, honestly, I came up with that album on Bandcamp, just kind of playing around because I got bored one day and thought, I'm going to make an album. That song, Oddity, which is self-titled for the album, is actually the whole summary of the album in one song. I did that song. I thought I want to make an album based off of this, but I want this song to really stick out from the rest. The album itself, instrumentally wise, is laid out to kind of play into music videos, which I'll be releasing here soon. It's a space adventure that may or may not go wrong or may not never happen. I decided, since it is with space, which was another topic I rabbit holed down and became obsessed with, I decided that there is a lot of really awesome NASA audio clips on their website, which you can use for educational purposes for free. And I thought, cool, but what about doing a song, let alone, trying to sell an album? I want to make sure that I don't get sued from NASA. And so I did a lot of research and called so many people. God, I went through like 30 different numbers that I had called trying to reach someone, and it was just voicemail after voicemail. And the last number I called, an actual person answered. And I was just so taken back when she said, her name and that she was with NASA. I literally said, oh my gosh, you're a human. And she said, well, we're not aliens. And I just felt so embarrassed, but it's, hilarious in a way because it's NASA. I told her my idea, and so she passed it along to the correct people. And they said, yeah, you can definitely feel free to use our archives. We don't endorse you, but you're welcome to use it how you see fit. So even though I'm not endorsed by NASA, I still make a point to give them the credit for it. Obviously, there was a lot of different audio clips from different space explorations that happened. My thought was, maybe it'll trigger people again to be curious, wonder, where did this clip come from, and look up that space exploration. Space is one of those things. We know a lot more now than what we used to, but there's still so much more to know, and we don't at this point in time. And it's just fascinating, how you can be down here and there's so much light and color, and then you're up there and it's just dark. It's dark. It's cool.
That is so cool, because when I was, doing my research on your music, and I, was reading about that album, and it's like, NASA, really? Like, and my question was, how did you get the clips? That is so cool.
It was on their archive. It's on their website. Again, they're free to use. Just ask permission if you're going to try to profit off of it, as anyone should for anything.
Right. So cool.
But yeah, there's so many different audio clips on there. I didn't use all of them because, that would be way too much. But they are very fascinating. The fact that we can listen to some of those voices, even though they're no longer alive.
Right.
And hear them in space. It's just, it's cool.
Very cool. Oh my gosh. And so you're working on your third album that you mentioned in the beginning, Maps.
Yes, Maps of Existence. This album is pretty much based on philosophy, the concept of reality and in time, and if any of it's real, because, we don't really know if we're in some sort of, simulation, or if there's multiple, parallel universes or what have you.
Right?
And so this album kind of plays on a lot of those questions, a lot of the philosophers that are mentioned in the songs as well. The concept also is kind of like the ending in a way of Crimes Against Humanity, which is a little bit darker, although there are lighter songs on it. This one is going to be very kind of, I love the synthesizer, so there's going to be a lot of that on there. There's going to be, kind of the aspect of some steampunk sounds and clocks, maybe a little reggae thrown in there. Just going to have to check it out once it's ready.
Oh my gosh. Do you have I'm sure you don't, but a release date or an idea of when?
No,
Nope.
I'm looking at recording it later this summer.
Okay.
The songs. I'm not sure if I'll get fully through all of the songs in the recording sessions yet. It just kind of depends on funds and time. I already have the next album after this one, the concept in my head in the title. I just don't have any of the songs written yet. Maps of Existence is going to be pretty easy to record because I have a game plan for all of the songs.
There you go.
I know how I want all of them to sound. And there may or may not be a duet in this album as well.
Oh, okay. We've got things to look forward to.
Nothing to look forward to.
Oh, I am looking forward to more music from you. Let me ask you this. What advice would you give an indie artist starting out in this business these days?
What advice would I give? I would tell them to love yourself and what you do, because there's going to be people that are going to try to tear you down, kind of hate on you for your success and your talents. Keep your true friends really close, because you're going to need all the support that you can get. Make sure that you're doing it for yourself and not for other people. That's huge. If you end up trying to make your music for someone else, you probably end up, disappointed. It's a lot of work, and it gets very expensive to record and to travel to get the distribution and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's worth the risk, worth all the funds. It can be a tax write-off.
There you go. In the end.
In the end.
It is a lot of work, but I think if indie artists like you who do it, one step at a time, and you bring in all the pieces you need and all the people you need and build that foundation and, work your way up to, where you are now. It's not for the faint of heart. That's my go-to phrase these days. You guys just work your butts off.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, I maintain a full-time desk job while I'm trying to do all of my music, my art, plus promoting other people and getting all of their stuff together. It's a lot of sleepless nights. Ultimately, it's worth it. I have people that question, you spend so much money to make this, and yet you don't really make anything off of it. It's like, well, there's not a lot of money to make off of it unless you're really 100% dedicated, foot down, going at it. But, I enjoy what I do. If I didn't, then it would be work.
But over time, though, you'll build yourself up. You'll build, Bird will, continue to flourish. You have different avenues that you're into and working at. So I believe that you will end up at making the money in the end. And like you said, it is full time. You work a full time job, and the music is a full time job, and it's a lot. So, but you're doing it.
It can be done.
Social media, it seems to be shifting, and it's always shifting. I know that. And making it harder for artists to get noticed. What's your combination for marketing?
Social media has changed a lot. It's helpful and it's hurtful at the same time. It used to be you would have to go out and buy an album to listen to someone. Now you can just stream it online, and it takes 1,000+ streams just to make a couple of pennies off of. And it's easy enough to where anyone can make music now. I mean, you have Bandcamp, you have your own home studios that you can just do on your laptop or your phone from anywhere, which is great. But it really takes away more kind of a unauthentic sound. There's so many podcasts and online radio stations that are happening now, which is great because it gives smaller artists, indie artists, a chance to get heard in
Right.
airplay, online play. There's a lot now that I have noticed just kind of in my own search of reaching out to radio stations to where people are charging to listen, to charge for you to submit your song somewhere. And I don't really believe in that. I'm much more the old school way. I would rather go in with a CD to a radio station and be like, here you go. And that doesn't really happen anymore. And it's kind of sad because it takes away kind of that tangible aspect of music and art. We make things so at our fingertip, but at a price. It's great to have things like Facebook and Instagram and all those other platforms because you can build up a following over time naturally, not paid for. Though you could do pay forward, but that's going to be a lot of bots. And it's nice to be able to connect a little bit closer with people. You can instant message and things like that. So I mean that part is nice, but there's also the downside to where you can have people try to stalk you and harass you online.
Of course.
That can be very damaging. And it's really hurtful as, a human because we should be at a point in our lives to where we're kind of evolved past that. And yet we kind of seem to be regressing backwards more
Agreed.
and more. We have the concept of AI, which is kind of cool to come up with ideas. It's also scary on the fact that you can just type in a few things and it can make artwork, it can make music, it can do vocals for you, answer your emails and stuff like that. So we're not really thinking for ourselves anymore, and that's sad to see
And scary. And
yeah,
very scary.
it's helpful and it's hurtful. It's just a matter of using it and being a good judgment. And if I could make a recommendation, don't be afraid to block people trying to get at you. That's a huge boundary, and it's a safety aspect
Absolutely.
as well.
Good and bad, like you said. So what's next for Vo? Because you got a lot of things going on. Is there anything else in between?
Sleep. That's my go-to. No, so the weather is nice. We're officially in spring now. I like to get out and work on my landscape photography and nature photography. I like to take walks, be in nature, see all the baby animals, the baby cows and goats and sheep. I do a bit of rock hounding in my free time as well, and I'll be traveling a lot more, bring friends out with their shows and stuff like that. So you might see me on the road. I'll be back in the recording studio making things happen. So
that's awesome. That is great. And so let everybody know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, just for like a couple of video posts, nothing personal on TikTok, Twitter, and Thread. I am on all of those platforms. I have, if you go to my Instagram, there is a link tree that'll have a link that will have everything listed. It also has all of my streaming platforms for my music as well, which is Bandcamp, YouTube, Spotify, etc.
And it's Vo, V-O, Vo Bird. I love that name.
Thank you.
Welcome. Vo, thank you so much for joining me tonight on R2RB podcast series. Honestly, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. And we had talked before, but it was nice to finally meet you.
It was a pleasure being on here and being able to chat with you. Thanks for allowing me to talk about my music and my passions. And it's great to be able to share and connect.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.